How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. We got a lot to talk about here on the show today. Lots to talk about here on the show today. Not the least of which is we have the Raw ratings from Monday night, and we're going to get into those after the break. Everybody's been talking about them. Raw did a terrible number last week, did a terrible number for Smackdown as well, and they had some wacky ideas on Monday. Monday very much feeling like a desperation edition of Raw. How did the show do in the ratings? It's not just the ratings we're going to look at, but there's actually a lot that can be learned from that number, and even more so over the next couple of weeks. So we'll talk about the Raw ratings here. We don't have SmackDown ratings from last night, but we do have a SmackDown report, which includes new WWE SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Daniel Bryan and Rowan are the new WWE SmackDown Tag Team Champions. It appears there are 3 teams on SmackDown. Actually, there's 2 teams. I take that back because the Usos are from Raw. So it's Daniel Bryan and Rowan, and it's Heavy Machinery. And I think that's it. I believe every other team is on Raw. So unless they do some call-ups, or unless they use the Wildcard rule to get teams over to SmackDown, I mean, it's not much of a tag team division. So a couple of things to say about that as well. I got a lot to say, actually, about this whole wild card deal that they are doing. We've also got notes on another WWE star who was offered double his contract to stay, when instead he is leaving. And he's not the only one that has been offered double. And if you look at the WWE earnings report and you wonder, why are they spending so much money right now? Well, it's offering people double their contracts. That's one of the things. Offering people double the money to not leave when their contract expires, because they don't want people with the impression that, man, these guys all want to get out of there, even though there's a lot of guys and gals that want to get out of there. So we'll talk about that. We got a bunch of notes from AEW. They've revealed some television info, some pay-per-view info for Double or Nothing. We'll talk about that here today, and so much more, and we will kick it off after the break. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live. When are you going to do your manscaping thing, Mike? You're a hairy man. All right, listen, everybody. I got a lot of news to get into here today, but
yes,
I want to start with a couple of quick plugs right off the bat. A couple of important things here. All up on my Twitter, at Bryan Alvarez. First thing is, I didn't even mention this yesterday, but my newest book, 100 Things WWE Fans Should Know or Do Before They Die, is at the printer right now. It is scheduled for a release date in the middle of July. It's going to be available in paperback and Kindle. No audiobook right now, but paperback and Kindle. And you'll be able to grab it at any bookstore that still exists in your area. 100 Things WWE Fans Should Know or Do Before They Die. The pre-order link is up on Amazon right now. Yesterday, the book was number 1 on Amazon in wrestling books. So if you'd like to grab your copy now, 350 pages, 100 things every WWE fan should know or do before they die. There's bios, there's everything you ever wanted to know about stuff like everyone's favorite topic, the Montreal Screwjob, the rise of Hulkamania. It's basically, in a lot of ways, a history book that is put together as 100 things that WWE fans should know or do before they die. I overshot my word limit, and it was still very hard to get it all into that word limit. So if you want a 350-page book on the history of WWE, dating back all the way to literally long before there was even a WWF. I go back through the history of the McMahon family. There's all sorts of great stuff in there, so check it out. It's on Amazon right now. It is stickied at the top of my Twitter. Number 2, today is the final day, Give Big 2019. Today is the official day, and we're doing a fundraiser for Whale Scout, and we're looking for donations to help buy trees and mulch and jackets, because a lot of this is done in inclement weather, and shovels and all sorts of outdoor equipment, and flyers, laminated material, promotion for the Helping Out events. A lot of it is habitat restoration. This is not about just, we're trying to raise money to show people whales. We're trying to raise money so that we can do habitat restoration around the state of Washington, and hopefully in time all up and down the West Coast. So if you'd like to donate, the link is on my Twitter at Bryan Alvarez. I am personally trying to raise $1,000. We're about $200 away from the goal, and I will match every donation dollar for dollar. So if you put in that $250 that we have left, I will put in $250, and that $1,000 we raise could become $2,000. So very much appreciate everybody that has donated thus far. And if you're a fan of Whale Scout, there's a brand new Whale Scout website that just launched today that looks awesome. So if you want to head up there and check it out and see what kind of work Whale Scout does before you donate, whalescout.org. And finally, also up on my Twitter right now, for free, for the first time ever, my match with Marco Stunt that took place this past November. Bryan Alvarez versus Marco Stunt. At the end of this month, I will be facing Marco's little brother, Logan Stunt, down in Las Vegas at Ed's show at All In Weekend. It's Friday at noon at the FSW Arena. I'm going to destroy this child. I'm going to slaughter this kid. And then exactly a week later, I will be facing Marco Stunt in a rematch. And this time, if you want to see the carnage that happened in the first match, the second match is no holds barred. I will destroy Marco Stunt once and for all. If you want to check out the first match, it is up for free on my Twitter at Bryan Alvarez. Don't you dare miss it.
I think somebody may have photoshopped your video or whatever, added some CGI effects or something, because it does not seem to be in that video a leg being broken by you on Marco Stunt.
A what?
Didn't you say you broke Marco Stunt's leg?
I did break his leg.
I don't recall seeing
viciously after the match was over. Pay attention next time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I kicked him in I kicked him so hard in the gut his leg broke. You can see it for yourself right there at Bryan Alvarez. All right, let's get into the real news here because this is very serious.
I just love this, how you went from Bryan Alvarez, like philanthropist to killer, but opened up as thespian and historian.
Yes, all of those things. I'm a man of many talents, Mike.
You are a Renaissance individual.
Just like Dom. But I'm significantly less hairy. All right, the Raw rating from Monday night. I'll just cut to the chase. The show did 2.24 million viewers. It was the second lowest non-holiday episode in modern history. The show lost audience at a steady pace from start to finish. They were going up against two games. Now, to be fair here, everybody, they were going up against two strong games, but the Golden State Warriors versus Houston Rockets game did 6.89 million viewers, and the NHL playoff game did 1.87 million viewers, and then 1.23 million viewers. So their strongest competition was 6.89 million viewers. Now, when they go up against football, I mean, their football games would do anything from 12 million to 20 million viewers. So this ain't even close to the competition that they faced during football season. And they did the second lowest non-holiday rating of all time. The declines. Women 18 to 49 dropped 15% from first to third. Men 18 to 49 dropped 21%. Teenage girls, which started low, dropped 7%. Teenage boys, Mike and myself, and many of you listening, we got into wrestling when we were teenage boys, some a little bit younger than that, but the point is we were young. Teenage boys dropped a record-setting 41% during the show. They lost almost half of their teenage viewers. And that was pretty much all the game because the Warriors game up 85% with teenage boys, and men 18 to 49 were up 97% from the first to the second game. Here are the hours. And by the way, I predicted this absolutely dead on yesterday. 8 p.m., 2.47 million. 9 p.m., 2.24 million. The third hour, as I figured, it did not drop as low as last week, but it was barely higher. 2.02 million. They were 20,000 people away from dropping below 2 million for that third hour. This is what is to be learned from this, okay? And WWE is doing all sorts of focus groups and surveys and everything to try to figure out why people aren't watching Raw. I'm doing this for free every week for you on this show. I don't know everything, okay? And I get some stuff wrong. But I have some free advice here, so listen up. The most notable thing, as we've all said, and this ain't even like genius, it's just obvious, you aren't going to turn this around in a week. The show had Vince McMahon out there for 25 minutes, who was almost always a ratings draw. It had the addition of the Wildcard rule, and 5 different wrestlers from Smackdown invaded. And it had 2 WrestleMania rematches, including a rematch of the hottest match at WrestleMania, the Daniel Bryan Kofi Kingston match. That WrestleMania rematch did 2.02 million viewers in the second hour. There is nothing, zero, that this company can do that is going to turn this around in a week. And on top of that, this desire to hotshot everything, to try to turn everything around in a week, is only going to make things worse. That's number one. Number two, every day on this show when we talk about ratings, I have to hear from these people that don't get it. And they say, Bryan, the reason the ratings are down is because people are watching on Hulu or DirecTV Now or YouTube TV or whatever. I've explained this 1,000 times, that if you are watching on those streaming services, that counts in these ratings, okay? So if you watch on YouTube TV like I do, I'm still counting that 2.02 million viewers. Now, on top of that, they also say, well, the reason that people aren't watching the show is they're watching it on YouTube or they're watching the clips on Twitter or whatever. I am not doubting that a lot of people are doing that, but the key is this. They didn't put anything on social media on Monday night. They put one thing, and that was the Revival and their Hot Balls segment. That's the only thing that they put on social media during the entire course of the show. Because they thought, if we don't put that on social media, people are going to watch the television show. Well, based on the numbers here, nobody decided that they were going to watch the show when the stuff wasn't showing up on social media. I've had people say, but Bryan, it's going to take a few weeks. No, it's not. It should be immediate. If you look for clips at 20 minutes past the top of the first hour and 40 minutes after the top of the first hour and an hour in and you don't see any clips, you're going to watch the show if you actually care about watching the show. Nobody did. YouTube, Twitter, none of that is taken away from the ratings. Back in a moment to let Mike talk. Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. I got one other thing I got to say, and then we'll go to Mike and the phones. And that is that this wildcard rule. So, on Monday, just to remind everyone, Vince McMahon said the rule was 3 people can show up from SmackDown, 3 people can go over to Raw. And he flat out said they needed to be invited. And then, later in the show, Lars Sullivan apparently talked Vince into 4 people. But again, the rule was you had to be invited. And then, WWE.com put up a deal, and their story was you could be invited to the other show, and if more than 4 people showed up, then they would be fined and or fired. Which, by the way, the Revival should just jump ship, and Sasha Banks, they should be like 6, 7, and 8 or something like that, and they can all be fired and get out of there. But anyway. So then, on SmackDown, AJ comes out. I think it was AJ. I think AJ was the first guy out. And his explanation was, like, you just got to be quick. Like, the first 4 guys that make it out on SmackDown, they're there. Like, you don't have to be invited. You can show up uninvited. You just got to be up there quick. It's like, what?
So elbow your way into gorilla position.
And then, and this is the other thing that drives me crazy about this brand split. They do a brand split. They do a superstar shakeup. But then it goes on for 4 weeks, and, like, people keep jumping back and forth, and they keep showing up on both shows. And so, like, we're 4 or 5 weeks post-Superstar Shakeup, and the Usos come out on SmackDown, and I'm like, I forgot they were here. I guess there are 3 teams. And then they cut the promo, and they remind me that, no, they're on Raw. And then they managed to get themselves into a SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, at which point the announcers have no idea what's going on. They're like, well, what happens if they win? Like, are the titles on Raw, but, like, if they want to, they can come to SmackDown and defend the titles here as part of the wild card rule? Which, of course, begs the question, like, if you're the champions, why would you come back to defend the titles? Like, just be on Raw or whatever. I mean, it was just like, nobody has any idea what's going on, and the story changes on a daily basis. Which is like everything in WWE. So how can you invest yourself as a fan if nobody knows what's going on and the rules are constantly changing?
Nothing makes sense and nothing matters, and it's the Usos come back and they're set up for like the only other team that's there, which happens to be Heavy Machinery, which that face-off really makes you want to see the match, doesn't it? You know, that turned out well. You got the one guy whispering to himself, even though we got these super sensitive mics and HD cameras, like, you know, whispering to the guy who's eyeing up the other guy who's eyeing up his partner and then saying, I'm out of here, we're gone. Boy, that's great. And that tag division, it's like, remember the women's lead up to the Elimination Chamber and the tag divisions where it's like they just had to put teams in because they didn't have enough, like, to have qualifiers, and now we're doing this with the men, with the largest roster you have going on. It's just...
Yeah, I love that they had to have qualifiers for women without enough women, but then when they have more than enough men for Money in the Bank, they don't do qualifiers at all to get into the match.
No. It just, sure. You know, and yeah, the Usos listing off all the teams that earned it, and it's like, so you're earning it because you came over from, and you're the wild card and you have microphones? Like, that's where we're at right now. And the thing with, like, the Revival, too, it's like, so the Revival want to leave, and everybody knows it, at least most of the people know it, and they're getting embarrassed and they're looking like schmucks. Then you have Sami Zayn, who's a character that just doesn't want to be there. That's the gimmick, is he doesn't want to be there. He'd rather be home doing whatever it is he'd rather be doing. This place sucks. And he was also just thrown into a compactor and looked like he was killed by a garbage truck, which, you know, I guess we have to throw that out.
Oh, yeah, he didn't sell a damn thing. He didn't have a banana on him or something.
No, nothing. Just like, you know, a piece of toilet paper from the foot like Heenan, nothing. And then his buddy, Kevin Owens, who I know this was a setup for later on, but it's still, it goes with the feel of where the show is at right now. It's like, I showed up, but I'm going home because it's my birthday and I'm out. And granted, he did come out later on, but it was like I'm watching after that was wrapped up. It's like, because I figured he was gone, and it's like thinking about the Revival and Sami Zayn and this other stuff. It's like, this is like a weird mirror of how you look at your fan base. Like, there are people that don't want to put up with this, don't care, have a mild interest, and are rapidly leaving. And it's like you're playing out and trying to poke fun at the people who are your hardest core, who still care about this stuff. It is an amazing dynamic, and they've always had that weird dynamic with their fans, and Vince has always had that. It's just, it is mind-boggling sometimes what life is like inside a snow globe.
Hey, I got more for you. So, as someone pointed out to me here, The Miz also ran in to attack Shane yesterday, so he was the fifth guy. So he should be fired and or fined on Raw Monday, unless you consider that the Usos are actually one guy.
Well, they
So if you're a team, that counts as one person.
So,
like, literally 8 people can come over to Raw if they're all tag teams. That's the rule now. How about that? And also, the Usos last night, in their promo, when they're challenging for the Smackdown tag titles, they cut a promo saying that Shane McMahon and The Miz beat them for the tag team titles, but in fact, that never happened. So apparently the continuity editor has not been fired yet, or he was hired and fired. I know what's going on.
Still unsure, but like continuity from times past, considering that this is in the position they're in right now, would you be okay if we brought back the Mean Street Posse music for Curtis Axel?
Hell yeah, are you
Bo
kidding
Dallas?
me? Absolutely.
Okay, good.
I'd rather they were on a better team.
Who would be a good third person? Who would be a good Joey Abs to go with their Pete Gas and Rodney?
Oh, God. I don't know. I got more here. This person, I'm going to praise SmackDown here. Person says, so they're making Kofi as strong and credible WWE champion as possible. I'm not complaining, but did he really need to turn into Superman and kick out of 3 Blue Thunder bombs? Yes, he absolutely did.
Yeah.
Because he is a weak champion.
Yeah.
He was a tag team guy in a 6-person team that won the world championship. And he is a weak champion. They even say on TV that he's a weak champion.
He's a fluke champion. And look, this
so
is
you
not
need to make him a real champion.
Yes.
I mean, you should be happy, because normally if you're a champion, you just do jobs all the time.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, they could have easily come out and killed him the same way they've killed out champions in the past after WrestleMania and said, okay, we got the feel-good moment, we're going to keep it moving now. And who knows, they may still do that. But at least they figured it out a little bit. At least, you know, hey, look, Ma, no pancakes. You know, that's a nice first step. And trying to avenge his friend and being pushed to the limit and being told he is a fluke and being told he was a tag team bum and he's with this, he's that. Superstar Graham says he needs to be on steroids, all that sort of stuff that he's fighting against. You need to do that because he was in a soft position when he came in. He got high out at the right time, but this is like a boxer that scores like a Buster Douglas who has a long career, always comes close and then strikes out. Then he lands that big punch on Tyson. You want Kofi to get fat, sit on his laurels with the pancakes and do nothing? Or do you want him to stay mean and stay hungry and to try to get some better matches and to try to build a star and to try to maintain where he's at right now at a time when they need stars? Yeah, they definitely needed to do that with him.
Caller, you're on the air. What is going on?
Hey, it's Paul in Barbersville. And
hello.
I'm glad your book went to the publisher when it did. Otherwise, one of those 100 things every WWE fan should know or do is going to be stop watching Raw.
Well, you know what? I'll give you a spoiler. Okay, so I did 96 entries, and I was going to leave 4 till right before publication time in case I forgot anything or they read it and they said, "Well, what about this or this or this?" So I'm writing the last 4, and I write 3. And I have 1 left. And I thought, what can I do for the last one here? And I chose there is wrestling out there other than WWE. And I did a whole entry about New Japan and the Indies and AEW starting up and CMLL and AAA and all of the different groups. I plugged everything, all of the different streaming services that I could come up with. And that was the final entry. And it probably wouldn't have been there if things weren't so terrible. It's supposed to be a WWE book, but like when it was over, I thought, I need to let these people know that it's okay to watch something other than WWE. You're not cheating on a girlfriend.
Well, Raw's a bad show, but I'm in a positive mood, so I'm going to praise something on Raw that I liked. I'm going to talk, let me tell you about these Bray Wyatt Firefly Funhouse segments.
Sure.
Bray Wyatt is a complete character in a way that you rarely see on WWE television. What I'm coming across in these segments is that he is a man who is genuinely wanting to reform, who wants to entertain children, but he is so broken and warped that his idea of wholesome children's entertainment is jarring and disturbing. And on top of that, they are adding layers to the character. So on this week's Raw, we learned not only was he non-pulsed when one of his puppet friends was murdered, we actually saw his audience for the first time, and all the children were bored. In addition to being a bad children's show host, Bray is actually a very bad children's show host. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure how you turn this into an in-ring character. My best guess is that he's going to come out with a box, and when the referee's back is turned, the vulture puppet's going to come out of the box and, bite his opponent. And maybe that's how you write the revival off television. Scott Dawson's face could be eaten by the buzzard, and that's the end of him.
Buzzard on bath salts. It's a new one.
I do have to say that I want to thank you very much for the call, Paul. Only a big fan of Chikara could come up with such a brilliant explanation of the Firefly Funhouse.
That would be because, they always think Jim Cornette, the Bill Watts philosophy of you can, whatever it is, whatever they give you, you got to make it into something. I think this is a case where Bill Watts would not be necessary, but Mike Quackenbush might be necessary to come in and try to save the day on that whole thing.
Well, actually,
Firefly,
stand
I know, just say the Firefly Funhouse is just something that is just already off the rails for me.
Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back here in Wrestling Observer Live, Bryan Alvarez here, Mike Sempervive, and you on the phones. Here on the air, what's going on?
So I was calling to see if you guys were aware of the current situation that's happening with Lars Sullivan.
Well, I know what's going on today, but it's the same situation that was going on
boards
3 months ago.
Okay, so do you think that because like Big E just you tweeted about it a couple hours ago and responded, do you think that that's going to affect him moving forward, even possibly a release with the pictures of him, actually him posting pictures of himself, kind of proving that it's him. What do you think they do with him moving forward?
Okay, here's the story with Lars, okay? So Lars posted a bunch of stuff on the internet like a decade ago, okay? And it is zero mystery in WWE that he did this. They knew this when they hired him. They have known this forever, and they are not going to fire him. Now, How is Lars going to react to this? I don't know. Lars was scheduled to debut, and he didn't. And I don't know if it was tied to this or if it was tied to something else, but he vanished for a long time, and it was shortly after this stuff came to light the first time. So, to answer your question, no, they're not going to release him, but I don't know how he's going to respond to Big E, and apparently other people in the locker room being unhappy with what he posted on the internet. So I don't know. This is literally exactly the same as it was last time. Somebody put a bunch of stuff up on the internet. Everybody found out about it, and it was a big scandal for like a day or two. And then everybody on the internet moved on to something else. And the same thing is going to happen here, but I don't know what the reaction is going to be from his end. In their minds, in WWE's minds, he did this. He apologized for it. He told them that he was wrong and that he was remorseful. And in their minds, it is a done deal. But that's just how it was last time. I don't know what's going to happen as a result of this one.
Yeah, well, it's, there's going to be something that a lot of people are going to have to go through with things that they've posted online that they thought were, at a time where they weren't thinking. Kids don't think, and a lot of people don't think. So at the time he was apparently young enough to know better, old enough to know better. Who knows? I don't know. I don't even know the age. I just know this stuff was supposed to be on bodybuilding forums, and some of it was linked up in our board and things like that. And it sucks, but as Big E said, if true, he has to bear the albatross of being a bigot and working in a company that is now filled with minorities, and not only minorities, but a bunch of people who think a lot differently than Lars Sullivan, who just think a lot differently than Lars Sullivan reportedly, allegedly thinks at one time. Maybe that he's apologized for.
I don't have any. You think I went through all of that stuff? I mean, I know the story, but I didn't go through everything. And I suppose I could, but I don't know.
I don't.
I don't want to defend.
I want somebody else can do, because I'd rather have it flushed out. Like, I'd rather have somebody flesh this out for me, because I'm not going through like old posts to see, to have Lars Sullivan's past, history of posting in bodybuilding forums. Like, everything about that's like, nah, no thanks.
Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, so I want to talk about the WWE rating situation. Thought of this as an idea. Probably a dumb idea, but,
Probably, Ian, but go ahead.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Didn't you get beat by a 61-year-old guy?
Oh, would you shut up? What's your idea?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyway, as I was saying, so...
How tall are you?
I mean, I'm 5'11".
How much do you weigh?
200 and about 7 pounds.
Okay, just wondering. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I thought, Bryan Alvarez. All right, listen here. So my idea is that the WWE Network it's important and stuff, and they're going to probably lose a little bit of subscribers over this. But, I mean, if they keep the big four still on the network, and instead of going back to pay-per-views, they don't have to do that. But instead of, doing these pay-per-views, and their pay-per-views are too long anyway, because I like to make them, 5 hours. So instead of that, what if, every 4 weeks or so, instead of doing these pay-per-views on the network, which aren't pay-per-views anymore anyway, they just did a Money in the Bank special on Raw or SmackDown every 4 weeks.
Dumb idea, Ian.
Them up.
Dumb idea.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just...
But I'm going to tell you why, okay? I'm not calling you dumb. I'm just going to tell you why they're not going to do this idea, okay? So the reason they're not going to do this idea is the WWE subscriber numbers right now are down from where they were last year. And every 3 months, they have to go before their investors, and they have to explain to them these numbers. And because the subscriber numbers are down, the number they want to harp on is the engagement of the subscribers to the network. So they say, well, during WrestleMania weekend, every WWE Network subscriber on average watched 12 hours of programming over the weekend. Now, the problem was, even though NXT TakeOver was longer and WrestleMania was longer, that number was down. So if you take... What do you say? Leave the big four on and take all of the others off. If you take 8 of them off the network and put them and have those matches go on Raw or SmackDown or whatever, I mean, their viewership numbers are going to plummet. And there will be a lot of people that will cancel the network if they have that many pay-per-views available for free on Raw and SmackDown. Your idea also, your idea necessitates them wanting shorter shows because they're going to put them on like USA or for Raw or SmackDown or whatever. They don't want shorter shows. Like, if they wanted shorter shows, the pay-per-views would just be shorter. So they're not going to shove a pay-per-view into a 3-hour window that doesn't even have an overrun anymore. I mean, it's not going to happen. Do I think that they should do more special versions of Raw, like a King of the Ring here, or Raw Roulette is somebody? Yeah, absolutely they should. Raw is the same damn show every single week. And it's fun. When you were a little kid, it was fun every now and then to go on a field trip. And if you're watching the same damn Raw every week, but all of a sudden this time it's in Vegas, and they're doing a Raw Roulette, and they're making it different and fun, I like that idea. But putting the pay-per-view shows on USA and SmackDown, I mean, it's not even going to help the rating that much. We learned that on Monday. They gave you WrestleMania main event rematches on Raw, and it didn't mean a damn thing. You're not going to turn the show around. I mean, maybe they could bump it up a little bit, but being able to... Okay, so there's 52 weeks in a year. Okay? So 8 weeks out of the year, you're going to do a big show to bump up the rating for that particular week. Like, yeah, the rating will be bumped up a little bit. It ain't going to be bumped up a lot. And on top of that, that bump divided by the 52 weeks of the show, it's not going to make a bit of difference when you look at the average number of Raw over the course of the year. Maybe a tiny little bit. So it's just not going to happen. There's no reason to do it, and it wouldn't work anyway. But thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
I got to watch this WWE Business Partner Summit that went up on their corporate website that they had today. WrestleNomics, and Brandon Thurston obviously has a big thread on this, and I'm looking at it right now. And just as far as the network goes, too, they are finally going, at least they made the announcement of multiple tiers. They're going to download to go, seamless discovery, customization, personalization, new content, which obviously it should have that. And then I'd love to. We sought to understand how kids 6 to 13 engage with many forms of entertainment. We found that children fall into two main groups: kids who look to role play and kids who look to their friends. Okay. Kids who look to role play are inspired by imagination and tend to skew younger. They like to act grown up, want to feel like a superhero. They want to connect with larger-than-life characters. WWE is a veritable playground for these kids. So our mission is clear. Keep creating the kinds of characters that kids want to emulate, then can pop into 2K into PlayStation and become AJ Styles. The kids in the second group skew older. They want to know what's new and trending.
Dude, these kids aren't watching the show.
That's the whole thing. It's like wrestling has always been wrestling. Like, you got into anybody on, no matter if what you like outside of wrestling, like, you fell into wrestling because you found a character or a moment that hooked you, and they got you into these other characters, whether that be Dusty or Ric Flair or whoever it was, Hulk Hogan. It doesn't matter what it, like the micro, this type of nonsense.
It's overthinking, like they always do.
It is. That's exactly right. I know it's a lot of it's obviously the corporate BS part, but like, this is what they're selling to a room full of people, and I'd love to see this more come out of the horse's mouths here, because this is the Barrios and Michelle Wilson portion of the WWE proceedings.
Listen, you dummies. Let me tell you how this works, okay? Free advice right here. Look at the Raw numbers. Raw lost 41% of their teenage viewers this week. And the game on the other channel was up 85% in that same demographic. So kids turned off your goofy wrestling show with wacky characters to watch dudes playing sports.
They want to know.
What the hell does that tell you?
They watched stars.
They're stars as well, but the stars are playing a sport.
But hey, that's true. They are playing a sport, and you had a simulated sport.
But it's not a simulated sport. That's my point. Like, if Raw were a simulated sport, or more like a simulated sport, and like the wrestlers like tried to win matches, and if they won matches, they would go up higher on the cards, and it wasn't just like, they win, they lose, and they get treated like idiots, and they have hot stuff on their balls and all this other stupid stuff. I mean, maybe the kids wouldn't go watch a sport. That's the thing here.
Well, you're right, but it's like, I'm trying to think exactly the way Lance put it, where it's just like, imagine if, the Flyers or the Rangers or whoever keeps winning, and the team that they keep beating ends up being the one in the playoffs. So it's like, nothing matters when nothing matters and you have no stars. I mean, Steve Austin outdrew football. The Rock outdrew football when they were. I didn't say outdrew. I'd take that back because it wasn't. But when they were taking their biggest chunk out of Monday Night Football, it was because they had these larger than life personalities and stars that were more exciting than anything that was taking place on Monday. On the other channel with football, and it became must-see programming. And they are completely just in their own way on everything. And those Bray Wyatt vignettes are a great example of that. I mean, the fact that they're showing them on both, the fact that they show the crowd sitting there dead silent to them, just staring up. It's just like, I don't know what they're doing with it. Maybe they have some sort of great payoff, but it's just like, it's to the point. It's just hokey. It's a bad takeoff of Adult Swim style, like late night programming stuff with a WWE spin. And do those little characters look cool? Did they put a lot of effort and thought into the set? And this, yes, they kind of looks kind of cool. It's still a wrestling show that you've completely lost the plot on, that nothing matters on.
All right, let me read this. Double or Nothing main card. Well, there is a pay-per-view, ITV box office, 1 a.m. local time in the UK, Sunday, May 26th, and there will be an hour-long pre-show called Buy-In that will air for free on ITV4. The Casino Battle Royal will be part of the pre-show, along with a singles match between Kip Sabian and Sammy Guevara. The winner of the Casino Battle Royal will receive a future title shot against whoever becomes the first AEW World Champion. There will be 21 wrestlers in the Battle Royal, 5 start. Every 3 minutes, 5 more come in, and that leaves one final special entrant who will enter on their own. So that will surely be some sort of big surprise. So the price for Double or Nothing, ITV box office, £14.95. It has noted a pre-event show called Before the Bell will air for free on ITV and ITV box office in the build-up to the Double or Nothing broadcast. So if you're excited for Double or Nothing, you can watch it on pay-per-view here in this country, and now you can watch it on pay-per-view in the UK. And we are told that over the next couple of weeks, maybe even every day, there are going to be big announcements about All Elite Wrestling. So they're jamming it into the last couple of weeks, so be ready for a lot more AEW news here on this show, which will be a breath of fresh air after having to rant about Raw and SmackDown for weeks on end. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive, also of WrestlingObserver.com. Want to mention also, as far as a quick news note here for today, in an interview with Chris Van Vliet, Rhino said WWE offered him double his current downside, but he turned it down. Rhino, I think, is 43 years old, and they offered him double the money. And he's not even doing anything. Like, he could make double the money to largely just sit at home all day, and he turned it down. Last day for the WWE, July 17th. He's going to work on the independent scene and have fun, and he does not have a no-compete period. So there's another one there, and I've recommended this to people. Like, if you want out, just go out there and do your job and hope you get a push here and there, and then when it's time to re-sign, don't. And don't make a big deal out of it on social media. Don't go public with it. Just don't resign. They'll offer you double the money. Then you can make your decision. And if you decide you want to go, just continue working out the rest of the contract that you signed and agreed to, and then go. And that's the end of that. If you end up like poor Luke Harper or Sasha Banks, I mean, the Revival, this is going to be a long road to hoe, as they say. Tough road to hoe. So, yeah, Rhino, another one.
Hey, for some of them, it is going to be a long one, too, if you had 2 years left on your deal and you want out now.
Yep. We're out of time, everybody. I want to thank you for listening here today. Don't forget to go up on my Twitter. Got 3 big things there. Linked to buy my newest book, 100 Things WWE Fans Should Know or Do Before They Die. My free match with Marco Stunt is up there right now. You can check that out absolutely free. The rematch coming up on June 1st, Black Label Pro. Make sure you check that out. And also the Give Big 2019 page. Just a few hours left to donate to Give Big 2019. Trying to raise $1,000. And currently, I am not quite there yet. $750. $51. But thanks in advance, everybody. Thanks, Mike, as always, callers and listeners, everybody in the studio. Talk to you tomorrow. Wrestling Observer Live.